Hi, welcome back to Weatherford Daze. I'm Rachel, this is Jason. We're thrilled that once again you decided to click on our video to spend some time with us. We hope that if this is your first time here, that you will stick around for a little while and check us out. If you are a returning listener, we hope that you have hit that subscribe button. That really will help us. We're attempting as a very, very tiny little channel to start growing a little bit. So every like and subscribe really does help to get us into the beginnings of the YouTube algorithm.
Plus, if you do the notifications, you know when we have a new video that's come out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes we do things during the week, sometimes little special bits. And
See, it helps you too. It's not just for us, right?
Yeah, and we've been kind of flirting with, putting little pictures and things and little posts up throughout the week to kind of be little touchstones and kind of go, hey, we're still here. We don't just appear every week. We have we'll pop in there into your life, into your feed, saying hi to you as we go. Okay.
Well, with that out of the way, introductions out of the way, we'll get into our topic for this week, which is an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I mentioned the topic and you went, ooh, yeah, I can tear that topic to pieces.
Yeah.
And I will say that this is probably one of my least favorite genres for the majority of books, and it probably has more bad books in the genre than just about any other. Well, it's more of a subgenre that there is. So, what are we talking about? We are talking about billionaire romances. And I am going to say that there are some really good ones out there. They're not all bad. And I did want to highlight one that I think falls into that category and kind of talk about what makes one good, what makes one bad, and maybe what makes one neutral, right? A book in this category. Or there's also TV shows, movies. There's lots of different kind of things that would fall into this general idea of someone very wealthy, whether it's the man or the woman, usually the man, obviously, and then someone who is not wealthy, whether they're actually struggling and down on their luck, whether they're only, moderately less wealthy than the very wealthy person. I mean,
or they could run like a non-profit or something like that that's somewhat successful, but is not, that would create a kind of interesting story to me.
But kind of looking into the life of someone who is got such a different lifestyle than we do, and what the mentality is for behind why people are drawn to this genre, why it is a genre, and just kind of, we're going to talk about that, have a little bit of fun tonight. So I hope you'll join us for the ride. The book that I wanted to kind of feature tonight is another one that I do a lot of these kind of lesser well known. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. It is called Good Enough for a Princess. It's a contemporary Christian romance, and it is by the author Carol Mancato, who is an author that I have followed for several years. Kind of stumbled on this book. Good Enough for a Princess was the first one that I found by her. And it's an interesting one. It's not your typical what you think of when you think of billionaire romance, because it's set around, or it's the main character is a princess who actually falls in love with kind of a regular everyday man who's a dad, and it's a story of how they met, how they fall in love, and the complications that arise, with her being royalty. But you do get that same it's the same dynamic of looking at, the lifestyles of the rich and the famous, and how, I guess, to me, one of the things that is a draw to that type of book
Mm.
is that we're looking at, there's a little bit of a jealousy to it, isn't it?
I was thinking envy, or
Or
the is
it
the
can't
grass
just be
always
simply
greener on the other side?
curiosity.
You know.
There is there's some people would be reading this just to kind of escape, to kind of learn about people who are in different stations of life. So there's people who have good, valid reasons for being interested in that type of literature. And then there's the people who are kind of going, either longing to be in that position themselves. They want to find somebody who's really wealthy who will put them into that position, or, they're going, oh, well, there has to be something wrong with people who are in that position. They're greedy, they're selfish, who are looking to pick apart or find fault because of, I mean, and that's what envy will do to you, right?
So one quick point: these issues of class and power and economics, they are affected by the real world.
Hmm.
So I was doing some reading. These publishers were saying that they were seeing the billionaire kind of character. They had to give him uh, some trauma, some issues, some hard edges. Oh, we'll just that can be soft. He's got a soft heart, but he's got the edges on the outside. So that you can actually feel bad for them or feel for them, because a handful of years ago there was the Occupy Wall Street protests, where young people and people with different groups were, they were out in Wall Street, and they were saying, "Oh, down with the billionaires," and they still hear that a lot, down with those people. So how can you have a romance that appeals to a majority of women that would read these, but just be honest, read these books and go, "I'm okay with a billionaire," but in their politics and in their daily life,
But I want
they might.
billionaires not to exist.
Yeah. So how do they how
Mm-hmm.
they make that work is they have to make the billionaire have a likable part of them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to either have like have a soul or something like that. They have to imbue them with that. And the publishers are saying they've seen that happen more often with a lot of because it just having it be a billionaire is just not working. They've got to have some kind of, they've got to save the dog.
Relatability.
Yeah, relatability.
Mm-hmm.
But you said escape. This is an escapism kind of genre,
Well, I think that
wouldn't you
for a
say?
lot of girls, I mean, to me, Cinderella, we all grow up, and that's one of the first movies that a lot of little girls fall in love with, is the whole idea of this young girl who is just good, and she's patient, and she's long suffering, but she's being abused and taken advantage of by someone evil. She's in a horrible position, and she needs rescued, and she is discovered by the prince, who obviously, it's your billionaire type, right? Every kind of, prince or princess type thing is going to fall into this kind of genre, and that's going to be eh, the whole thing of, every little girl who's waiting for her prince to come and rescue her from her situation. That's where the mentality comes from, is it's the Cinderella syndrome.
We don't know. You mentioned three or four different aspects of the female character that needs rescuing. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, that's it. And then I thought, who's the prince? We don't know anything about the prince.
But that's why, like, you realize
Becomes this blank
fairy tale
slate.
retellings is another entire subgenre of books that are out there. And because people are constantly trying to give more to that story, more background, more depth, more, and twist and turns and that
Where
kind
they
of
may have
thing.
found that the original was lacking in some of the characterization because
Right.
it's a fairy tale. I
And
mean,
a lot of people are going to take and completely flip it on its head and have the princess be the one who rescues the prince instead. And, there's all kinds of takes on it depending on what the author is trying to show or what really kind of bothered them about maybe the original story.
or they're taking a chance with when they did the twist, the story just
Mhm.
unfolded for them, and they went, "Ooh," and it
And
had
that's
so
the
much meat
thing.
to it. But if they just kind of followed the original slavishly, then it was kind of boring to them.
I saw
Spice it up.
over the course of my life going from Cinderella being something that little girls dreamed of to Cinderella kind of being vilified as a very kind of, I guess, anti feminist
Yeah,
type thing of, and there being a lot of pushback and a lot of conversation around that. So it is, I mean, there is a lot to that topic and a lot of different twists and turns that the genre can take. And, obviously, we're not focusing on all fairy tale retellings here. That's an entirely different video. This is more of the,
it's related somewhat. Yeah.
what Cinderella represented in as far as having the wealthy one who is kind of rescuing or helping or sweeping the other one into an entirely different lifestyle where there's this real learning curve that's happening where there's an entire different class that they're climbing.
It's opulence.
Hmm.
It's all the things that you think about when you think about wealth. They get to do anything they want to do, and all this stuff. And of course, it's not realistic because I was talking to Rachel earlier. I mentioned something. I said anybody that has had anything to do with being a billionaire that wasn't a trust fund guy probably is pulled into a lot of the decisions that the company makes and that made all the money. So they are not just, well, I'm not really running the company. Everybody else is running the company. There's a board that runs it, and I kind of just come in and do my little thing, and then I get to go off and to Ibiza, and I get to uh, helicopter ski, do all the cool fun things that you see somebody doing. Oh, have you ever done that? No, I've never done that. Where uh, the female in this situation, I guess it could be flipped, gender flipped, but all these things that she never gets a chance to do in her life, the character, she gets to go along with this character in the book and be introduced to all these different things. But
There's
when
lots
is
of
there time to
really
do that if he's making his billions? And
there's lots of really good themes that can be explored along with this though. There's self-esteem. There's the whole idea of, does wealth actually equal better, right?
mo
You're
money,
always
mo
wanting to
problems.
really show that, yeah, that more money is going to most likely equal more problems, that a lot of times there's
Different problems,
societal
different problems.
expectations, especially when you have a prince or a princess. There's a lot of times protocols that are in place, there's public relations issues that are there. When you have a billionaire, there's also the whole idea of their public image and scandal and wanting
There's
to
a part of the genre called
maintain
Secret
that.
Baby where they have the female gets pregnant or something like that, and like, oh no, and what are we gonna do? And it's throwing an extra wrinkle into that. You said
Yeah.
scandal. I thought Secret Baby.
And uh, again, like I said at the beginning, there's some really good books that have worthwhile themes that they actually make you think and explore the different wealth dynamics and the
Power dynamics
power
too. Yeah,
dynamics and even just the idea of jealousy or feeling less than.
comparison.
Right, the
Yeah, can
comparison.
be a
I mean,
thief of joy too.
all
Yeah.
of those things can be. presented in these books in such a way that it really does help people to think better about themselves, to have a better self-image about who they are, to have more contentment with their own lives. So there is that. And then there's also the ones that are really just trash. And I mean, like I was saying, this genre has a lot of trash in it and a lot of just themes not really fully explored, or just kind of a mockery of a story just to have the romance be the main
Yeah.
angle. And it's purely just I guess just a way to have people
Shoehorned
try
spiciness.
to dream that they're going to be the ones who are going to have the billionaire in the end.
Well,
And
even before the story gets to that point, though, there are some little things that you can look for that are clues that it's going to go down a rough path. Billionaire shows up. He has a contract in his hand. Close the book. And that's actually a part of the genre. It's like close the book, put it down, and walk away.
yeah, you're going to be heading. I mean,
Stop. Get some help. It's like the meme. Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you can tell before you ever pick up a book
Yeah.
what level of spice or whatever. I mean, and that's if you're going to read any romance.
Open shirt,
You need
tattoos,
to know those clues for what you're looking for and know it.
poses. Yeah. You close it. Just go. Yeah. The cover will betray a
But
lot
a lot of people may be
sometimes.
looking for that. As far as for me, that's not something that I'm looking for. So I've learned to find pretty well how to find those little hints and things that will tell you
So
that's not the
they're
kind of book I want to be reading.
so those are the rough, and you're talking
Yes.
about diamonds in the rough. But the problem
Yeah.
is, some people will actually avoid some of those genres because of all the rough.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the keywords that you would look for in the description or the title? Because you said contemporary Christian,
Hmm.
sweet, clean,
Sweet, clean. Those are going to be the best, or the main ones. You're just looking
and
for a
woe to
clean
those that
romance
use
or a
those phrases and that have spice in them, because
no. They're pretty good about
they won't say clean or
not
sweet if
saying
they are
clean or
if
sweet if
they
it's
okay,
not.
okay.
Yeah.
I was always thinking that it would be a good idea for somebody to compile a list of really good books in this genre to really save people the trouble of all the rough.
Well, I was thinking about it. I kind of feel like Pride and Prejudice fits in this.
Mm, you
It's
mentioned that, yeah.
the whole concept of you have someone that's kind of down on her luck and needs rescuing, and a very wealthy man, and how they fall in love. It is, I mean, Darcy was a billionaire of the time. So, I mean, it fits the genre.
But I think I
Her
was,
having to
yeah.
deal with the societal pressures of not being looked down on is not
Mm.
good enough for Darcy. I mean, all of the markers are there, and I think that is one of the things that is a pretty common theme, is that after they fall in love, the wealthy one with the not wealthy one, there's always kind of the thing of they bring them home and introduce them, and it's like, oh yeah, I love them, and then they always get the questions like, are you sure about this? They're not really appropriate for some reason or another. There's always something.
Darcy had
Either,
his rough patches that needed smoothing out, which, but
yeah,
she had her own faults that come through. That's what makes her a great
one
author.
of his faults was the fact that all he saw when he looked at her was flaws and faults. He looked at her and saw someone who was completely inappropriate. If you are looking at somebody and falling in love with somebody, that the back of your mind, you're telling yourself this person is inappropriate, how are you ever supposed to overcome that?
Well,
It had to be him actually coming to the realization that he was being stupid.
in finding the faults, or were the faults actually there? He found more faults than were actually there.
that there
Or did
was
they have any basis in
more that
reality?
they had in common than that there was standing in the way. And I mean, for him, he said that the biggest thing was not their inequality of wealth or education, but that to him, her family and their lack of propriety at times. So their indiscretions could hurt his reputation. And that's one of the things with when you are wealthy, that seems to be a theme that you care about your reputation, whether you're part of the nobility or simply just part of the wealthy, because wealthy people tend to be known. We know who the wealthy people are, the really wealthy, the billionaires.
There are some. There was actually a book published years ago called Billionaire Next Door, and I read that as part of another small group or something like that. And I think, and what it was talking about is that you would often have somebody who would just they would the truck the cars they would buy would be like a Ford F-150. It would not be a Ferrari Testarossa. It would be a vehicle that's very dependable, trustworthy. It's not going to fail them. They could also store, take things back and forth, when they're going. They might wear overalls. Oh, they're not going to wear the suit with the, and looking all sharp like these covers of these novels. No, they're probably, if you were to take all of their wealth and liquefy it, like their farm and all these different things, they had lots of money, but you never knew it to look at them. So, because the reason why they're still wealthy is because they haven't just flaunted it, and
Mhm.
it hasn't just ran through their fingers like water. And that's because there's a wisdom in this person.
Feel like those type of books though are specifically written to teach people how, or like to
Books and
allow
covers to
people
not,
to dream.
yeah.
Like if I were to be a billionaire, then how would I do it in the smart way? Well, they're laying it out for me here what the smartest way is to live when you get money. But it's all kind of, it furthers that mentality of, us all kind of dreaming that one
But do you
day.
want the frugal billionaire in your romance story, or do you want one that's
And again,
driving the really fast car and eating the best foods?
that depends on what type of billionaire story you're looking for, whether you have
Right.
some maturity and wisdom in you to actually, and because like I said, there's a spectrum of these types of books. A genre is not just 50 Shades of Grey.
Hmm.
That's funny, that title, because it is, lots of shades
Well, I
of
mean,
types of book.
it's a fan. It came from that book came from fan fiction of a story of two individuals that had a out of balance power dynamic, and then you flip it to the fan fiction
Mhm.
world, and there's a out of balance power dynamic. So that never really went away, did it? That's just an aside.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And that would be an example of a really bad one of this genre. I
I
mean,
wonder if it didn't
it's really,
cause it
really
to
bad.
explode.
It
Or if they
probably did, but I don't think that the genre existed before then. I feel like it caused the bad side of that genre to explode and to become more popular.
right,
Is the ones that kind of fed into the coveting that lifestyle without really understanding the ups and downs or how to do it in the correct way.
right.
You know, it's such a, when you look at that story, there's just not much to the storyline at all. Over the course of books, right? I'm pretty sure all that happened in that book, other than the meeting and the romance aspect of it, is they decide to renovate a house together. He buys her a car.
I don't know. It was HGTV with
They,
spiciness.
I mean, there's just not much of a storyline.
I don't think people were
The
reading it for the story, if you really want to be
Yeah,
honest.
but that's the thing. It's like if you're going to have a book, have a story. And I mean, the book that I talked about at the beginning,
Yes,
the
please.
Fit for a Princess by Carol Moncato,
Mhm.
is one of a lot of books by this author. She's written a lot. I would say probably over 50 books. And they're all based around these several kingdoms, and it's kind of like Princess Diaries. It's kind of
Yes.
like Princess Diaries, where you've got you're
There's
in
no real
the
Genovia. It's kind of, yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's a made up kingdom that set in modern day, so you've got America, you've got real countries, and then you've got a fake kingdom. So that's the same thing that they're dealing with in this books. And there's multiple different series that are all kind of based around and interconnected. So you've got people from some of the books showing up in the other books, and all of that. So this interconnected world of several kingdoms, and you find you hear about the love stories. There's a book for the love story of every single one of these different kingdoms and the monarchies, and like the brothers and the sisters and the the
Cousins,
multiple
uncles, former
generations.
roommate.
Like,
Yeah.
she's really every single one for multiple generations. Their love story, how the husband and the wife met and fell in love, and then you will see them showing up. So if you can really kind of fall into this world and feel like everybody and the stories of everybody, as you're finding 30, 40 different couples that go along and still manage to pop back into it. You know it's a lot. And I haven't read
Christian
the last.
Bridgerton with this. I would say
Yeah.
Christian Bridgerton,
And the interesting
modern
thing about
terms.
this one is it does say that it's a Christian book, but I wouldn't say that it's very heavily Christian. They do
It's not
talk
bash you over the
about
head.
going to church, they talk about God, but it's not really one of those that she's really kind of pushing. Yeah, it's not very strongly in there. I would say it's one of the least overtly Christian books that I have, or book series that I've ever read. Most of the time, if somebody goes to the trouble of saying that it's Christian, they're a little bit more heavy on the Christian.
Do you think that the fact that a lot more books that say Christian, at least you're kind of like, oh, okay, at least it'll be sweet, sweet
Well,
romance. It's not going to be
I think that Carol
any
Moncato
spice.
actually decided and said, you know what? I'm writing this as a Christian romance book that's just kind of my target audience is a Christian. So I don't have to try to convert the Christians, because the ones who are reading my books are probably already Christian. I think she just went, they're
That's
already
pretty.
Christians, and I'm not going
Yeah,
to preach to the choir. I'm just going to have it set in a world where they're acting on morals
it's
and principles that are Christians.
part of their
Yeah,
life. Like,
right.
I don't know, like real people.
So they're just going to church, but it's not actually, I mean, like we've talked about Grace Livingston Hill before. She's another one that was a very prolific writer. She wrote hundreds of books, and in every single one of her books, there was written in, there's scriptures, there's hymns. You see exactly how to come to Christ. Like, the scriptures are in there. And I mean, there's a lot of good in that.
Aren't there a
But
lot
it's
of books
written
and
to
movies?
take
Yeah,
someone who's not a Christian and show them how to be a Christian. Whereas these books are just, my audience is already a Christian. They don't need to be,
well,
led.
that's one of the issues that, as a side note, one of the issues that I've had with a lot of genres that profess to be Christian is there's a point where you
How many
get
times have we said Christian in the past minute?
a lot. They slam on the brakes,
Mm.
like the story is moving forward. It's got some momentum, and they slam on the brakes, and now it's time to speak to somebody who is probably already Christian and maybe need a little encouragement, but it almost feels like a conversion or a tract in the middle of a book. And I haven't read enough of that genre or those types of books to get those, but I've had a lot of people complain about that in their movies. And or
that
books?
movies do it a lot more poorly than authors do. There are so
Oh, okay.
many really good Christian books that, and I'm not saying, like, I love Grace Livingston Hill and what she did, and I appreciate, especially for the time period that she was writing in and what her mission was. I appreciate that. And there is a place for that. However, most of the people writing today, you kind of you have some that are like Carol Mancato, who it's just kind of, it's just there's the assumption that all of the people that she's writing about are Christians and are living their lives based off of moral guidelines. And then you have some that are just a lot more, you have the person that's coming up to a moral dilemma and they have to make a choice. And it's leading you through this kind of a crisis of the soul moment. And to me, having God brought into that or a belief system brought into that is really beautiful. It's not slamming Christianity over your head. It's just kind of leading you down this natural progression of what it is to trust in God during the different situations that you face in your life.
That sounds kind of organic the way that you're
Mm-hmm.
describing it, and it is it is not organic when I see it in a movie. In fact, many times I will, to be honest, and I will actually gravitate more to movies that don't trumpet that they're Christian, but have an element in there that I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
God, isn't that so rich? And I'll stay away from the movies that go, we're a Christian, or that's so because I've been burned so many times by that, and it's almost comical,
I
and
like that
that's
there's a
unfortunate.
variety out there, though. Lydia was talking about earlier today
Yeah,
about Veggie Tales. She was talking about the difference that happened between when they were just doing their DVDs and stuff, their original stories, and when they switched over to their Netflix show.
yeah,
And she was like, I hate that they took the Bible verses out of it and kind of took God out of VeggieTales. They still have, you know, morality that they're teaching, but they don't have the whole, Cardi, do a verse for us. She's like, that took away what made VeggieTales so good. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of did. And I get that and why she misses that. But I also, I've heard the heart of why they made the decision to do that and what the restrictions were for going to Netflix. And I can understand that they were still wanting to be able to create and to have a kids show on a platform like Netflix that they wouldn't have been able to do their regular stuff, but still have something that taught morality, just not as overtly. And there was still good that they were able to do and good stories. Now, did they lose a little bit in the animation and some of the,
yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
They lost a little bit there. Some of their quality went down. But I guess all that to say, different people are going to like and appreciate and be looking for different things. And depending on where you are in your life, you may be somebody that's looking for something different at one point in your life than you are in another point in your life.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that there's lots of options out there. To pull to bring it back to this topic, I think when we're just looking for an interesting story, we're looking for to see what, people's lives are like in all kinds of different situations. Whether it's somebody that, you're just curious about what the life of a princess would be like, whether you're looking at a modern day princess, whether you're looking at somebody that lived, hundreds of years ago, medieval or Renaissance period, just looking at what their life would be like and what the struggles that they face. There's nothing wrong with that. And whether their romance happens between somebody that is on the same, in the same class as they are, or whether it happens with somebody in a different class and they have to go through the struggles that that is going to entail of marrying somebody that maybe didn't have the same upbringing as they did. It's, every love story is a challenge that has those unique things to overcome. Today, oh, I was talking with a friend yesterday and she mentioned some of the dating reality shows and how you see into the billionaire lifestyle in that way. You're kind of looking at and judging these people, and there's kind of, a morbid curiosity to it, but it helps you understand what people from different lifestyles are, what they have in common with you, because that there is something. I think you said that earlier,
Yeah.
that we can find relatability to people in all walks of life. I think it's good when we can find relatability rather than when we go and kind of look at them and say, oh, they think that they have problems, but they have no idea what my problems are like. There's a jadedness to that mentality that it's understandable, but it's sad to brush off just because somebody hasn't experienced the same problems, to say that their problems aren't problems. I have had that song running through my head. If money's such a problem, you know, lifestyles of the rich and the famous. It just, if money's such a problem, wish I could have some. It's just that mentality of going, and I really do feel like that song has that idea behind it of going, they're so entitled that they have no idea what us common people are dealing with.
I have something to mention.
Okay.
So, one of the downsides to that kind of mentality of looking for not just a female looking for Mr. Right, but Mr. Millionaire Right or whatever, there has been a lot of videos I've seen online of people that have ridiculous expectations.
Mm.
They said, okay, well, what do you need in a significant other? They were saying that, well, he's got to be 6 foot or above. He's got to make $200,000 at least a year. He needs to be fit, so doesn't need to be overweight. It needs to be. It doesn't matter I'd like him to be a white person because I am. That they may say all those things. They said, okay, well, let's look at this. This according to the census in America for last year. Okay, 0.49% of men. So basically, if that's your amount you're looking for, you're way off because there's a very small amount of people that make that amount of money. And so that because they're thinking the $200,000 would just make life perfect for me. And it's not someone they don't want someone who's struggling the same way they're struggling. They want all their problems to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that make those higher levels of money, they are on a different class level. So when they seek after somebody, they generally end up with somebody who's like an actress or a model or somewhere in that higher bracket.
It's like a Cinderella and it's just good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're
It
going to
could happen.
if they're going to go with somebody that is in a lower financial bracket than they are, there's going to be a reason. It's going to be because they have been looking for somebody that's got, a different heart. And that's going to be somebody, though, that's not looking for somebody that has money. They're going to be looking for somebody that has those qualities of not caring about the money, because, you always hear about the billionaires that are going, yeah, the only thing that people ever see when they look at me is my pocketbook. And if you're going, well, my qualifications for a guy are his pocketbook, you pretty much already disqualified yourself from anybody, because everybody that they're meeting, is probably after them for their money.
I've seen a lot of people that are artists will gravitate towards other artists, whether that's a performer.
The prince in me, wasn't it? Sorry, wasn't that
I
the
think
thing?
so.
He like came to college and like was undercover and everything, and he didn't want anybody to know that he was wealthy and that he had a title and everything, because he wanted to find somebody to fall in
Yes.
love with for him, not for, I mean, that's so many stories are like that. Sorry, good. I
No,
interrupted.
no, it's fine. What I was going to say is that I see a lot of, if someone has lots of money for being an actor or a performer, they generally will gravitate towards other actors, actresses, whatever, or performers, because they can understand
Mhm.
the creative process and what it takes to do those things. They understand that you're under constant scrutiny from the public, from this and that. And those don't always work out because those are some volatile people. But sometimes they will, you'll have a famous actress and she'll just choose a guy that's just like a carpenter or a handyman or something like that. And it's because this world that I live in is really stressful. And I'm doing it because I love it and it does get me money, but it's really stressful. And you have a down to earth kind of way
Mhm.
about you. And I've seen those happen. I can't say what makes them last. And in a previous session or episode, we talked about love and what causes that to last. And many times it's you are in the same, world together, and
Mhm.
you share those aspects of who you are, values and things like that. Those are what keep those things going. A whirlwind romance with a billionaire might be fun for like a minute, but is that really a relationship that's going to last? But again, this is an escapist book. This is to get out of your world and into another one, just as much as any fantasy book would be, an escapist.
And I think a
So
lot
I
of
can't
people
knock it.
wouldn't actually choose that for themselves. I think that one of the things that this type of genre does is show how difficult that can be. And they're just curious what their lives look like. I think that curiosity is a driver of a lot of different genres, whether it's somebody that wants to understand what it would be like to be an elf, or to have magical powers of some sort, or to, you've got the historical stuff that you're going to another time, another place.
Oh,
Books take us places.
yes. Curiosity is a
They give
huge
us windows
driver
into,
with any kind of media, and definitely
I
books. You
think
have to open it up. You have to
one of,
read it.
yeah, one of probably my least read types of books is books about just people like me. I don't tend to want to read books that are dealing with people in my time with my abilities, and a lot of people do, but that's not for me. I like to go somewhere else. I like to escape. So,
You wouldn't want to read about what it's like to be a 48-year-old tech support guy that works for a university and tries to provide for his family and makes lots of mistakes and, and tries to make up for it. No?
no, I
Some,
want
hey,
some magic inserted in that world somehow.
sorry.
I need superpowers or something, you know? And I mean,
No?
wow,
I don't know any card
you
tricks.
just did that, huh?
I did.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I can't really do any more magic than that.
I think that wraps up our thoughts for the night. We've been going for a little while,
Yeah.
so we'll have to come back and maybe see if there were any thoughts we didn't fully explore and explain
Yeah.
at some
Little
point.
threads to pull.
Or somebody, again, if you got something you want to leave us in the comments, we'd love that.
Yes.
Thank you, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Have a good one.